Joining us now on the Third and 30 podcast, we're very happy to welcome Director of Football Analytics at the University of Virginia, Coach Matthew Edwards. Coach Edwards, thank you so much for joining. I got to tell you, my dad moved to this country in 1989 from India, and his first job in this country was at the University of Virginia. So super excited to have you on because I've always been a fan from UVA from afar. This was before I was born, but super excited to have you on the show. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Really excited.
You know what we'd like to do with our guests, and we want to find out more about you and kind of have you tell us a little bit about your journey on life and where you are now and coaching college football. So, if you wouldn't mind, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you ended up at the University of Virginia.
Okay, sorry, I think my internet cut out there for a little bit. So I am Matthew Edwards. Like you said, I played football at BYU, grew up in Utah, was a huge BYU fan. My grandpa coached there for 40 years, and so was kind of around the program from when I was a little kid. So grew up huge BYU fan, got a chance to walk on there and had a great experience. Played tight end, played in just a few games, but I did have one catch, and it was for 9 yards and a touchdown. So one catch, one touchdown. I think that's a pretty good ratio there.
I like the average there.
But yeah, I think any receiver out there would kill for something like that. But had a great opportunity to be on the team there and loved it. Once I was on the team, I knew that I wanted to do something in football. Thought that my initial path would be through coaching. Like I said, my grandpa had coached, and so kind of started moving down that path. Was a graduate assistant at BYU after I finished, and then took a job coaching at a school out here in Virginia called Southern Virginia University. Coached there for 2 seasons, and then Coach Mendenhall had an opening for an analyst job at UVA. And in an effort to kind of set myself apart from other people who were applying for the job, I kind of pitched the idea of making it an analytics focused role instead of just, kind of a typical analyst who's getting film ready and, whatever else. But, I majored in math at BYU and had a background in math and statistics, and was able to show Coach that, I could bring kind of a unique skill set to the role, and was able to join him and have been here for the last 4 seasons. And it's been awesome. I've loved it and love the University of Virginia.
Coach, yeah, through all those years of being a part of football and going through different programs and this, that, and the other, I'm sure this year or last year currently has been probably more difficult than any other time coaching football. We want to talk about, obviously COVID-19, and I want to ask you how that's altered so many different things this year and what effect it's had on coaches, players, recruiting, and what have you kind of learned from this? And if anything, what have you taken out of this that you're kind of excited about moving forward?
Yeah, I think that, like you mentioned, games, recruiting, almost every aspect of our program has been affected in one way or another by COVID. Students are not in classes, so their academic requirements and everything has been switched around. So I think one thing that we've noticed is the importance and ability to react to changing conditions has been huge. No longer are you able to just kind of go off of what has happened or worked in the past. You've got to be able to adapt and react to changing circumstances. So we've had to change everything. Our meetings, we can no longer meet inside, so we all met in our indoor practice facility. Everybody kind of spread out, everybody all in there together. So we talked about how we would be able to actually utilize that and make it an advantage instead of a disadvantage. And so we had more opportunities to kind of like interact between groups and have a higher cohesive unit as we were meeting and learning for our position meetings. Recruiting's totally different. It's been dead, period, and nobody's been allowed on campuses and coaches can't go out to visit. And so, we've had to utilize, Zoom and virtual tours and everything like that. And so I think the important thing that we've noticed is, like I mentioned already, just the ability to change and look at like the changing times and the adapting circumstances and be willing to adjust what your plan is and has been, and being able to kind of roll with the punches.
Coach, I'm curious to know. We had we had Coach Davis on a couple weeks back, and he was also talking about the virtual tours. From your perspective, is the virtual tour something where you're still taking the athletes around virtually, whether it's FaceTime, Zoom, or something like that, or is it more of a video of here's a video tour of our campus that they kind of watch with you, and you're showing that on the screen? And then maybe there's a couple key points you're doing from your phone or your iPad. How's that work?
Yeah, we've done both. We have a set of videos that we can use in recruiting. So videos that talk about academics and videos that talk about our facilities and tour of grounds and all of these things that are kind of good intro videos and can show a certain level of things. But then at the same time, we've had coaches take a phone or an iPad or whatever over to the stadium and walked
Mhm.
recruits through, hey, this is our stadium, this is what your locker would look like, and giving it kind of a more personalized touch. And so we've utilized a little bit of both for sure.
Is there a certain wow factor you guys have gone to? I know from coaching the high school kids now, they love to go into the facility and go to the photo op spot where they can put on a jersey, and you can't do that now.
I
So
know.
what's the new wow factor with virtual?
I think that it really just depends on the kid. I think a lot of kids that, like you're talking about, that gear experience is, something that everybody loves. And so that aspect is definitely gone. But, utilizing relationships is key. So, I know this recruit, so and so who's really into, whatever it might be. Now, what can I do to help him have that experience, to build that better connection? And so, a lot of it is personal connections,
Mhm.
but I think everybody's used to doing things virtually, and so we really try to create pretty, kind of like you're saying, that wow factor, but like pretty moving and awesome recruiting tools, even the non-personalized ones, kind of the generic
Mhm.
ones that we would use that would have that kind of wow factor. So just looking at different opportunities.
And I bet it means something to those athletes right now, because you almost have to build more relationship now than ever before, because I can't just take you to the stadium and wow you with all the alternate gear we've got.
Yeah. Places like University of Oregon that has all that gear, that probably is hurting them a little bit more now than the
Yeah.
University of Virginia. And so, like just in anything, right? Even when it was no restrictions, people were coming on grounds. Every school is different. Every school has different pros and cons. And so you work to what your strengths are, and try
Yeah.
and find people that want that and that would that resonates with. And so yeah, working with what your resources are is huge.
Yeah. No, that sounds awesome. I almost wish I was a kid getting recruited right now so I could see all the cool videos.
I
Um,
know.
Coach Edwards, we want to go back to the pathway of the day-to-day work that you do. This is a unique experience for us because I know whether I was at Pooter High School with Coach P, we had a little bit of analytics that went into things. I'm currently at Nordonia High School in the Cleveland area, northeastern Ohio, and we have a lot of analytics we put into play. And what I really want to dive into is this role of the director of football analytics, and learn a little bit more about what is your role and that kind of the daily responsibilities. And then what does a game day look like? I'm really curious about that.
Okay. Yeah. So my role is not that common across, college football. I think most NFL teams, I would say pretty confidently that every NFL team has an analytics staffer, whether it's a, full team of, 4 or 5 people or just one. But there's, somebody in the NFL for every team. In college, it's a little less common, I'd say. And so a little bit, I'm just kind of, creating my role as I see it. But for me, I think there are 3 main areas where where analytics can be used in college. One is in recruiting, right? It's such a huge aspect. You want to be able to attract top talent. And so, using any sort of data or numbers that can help increase your abilities recruiting is huge. The next one is like game day. And so we can talk a little bit more about what your question there was, but game day is any sort of data and information that can help, you win or lose on game day is huge. Every victory counts and, is a big deal, especially in our conference, ACC. The, Coastal is really just chaotic every year. It's been, before this year, we had, everybody all in the same thing, but we had 7 different winners the last 7 years in the ACC Coastal. And so it's pretty, neck and neck year to year. So each individual game is so important and impactful on, your chances to win your division. So, we utilize stats and analytics in game. We have an in-game decision model that we've built that helps us with 4th down decisions and 2-point decisions and, other kind of game planning things, timeout usage and things like that. But then also a lot of statistics and analytics goes into game planning. How you look at your opponent, how you look at yourself, the things that you're good at, the things that you should focus on. I'm working on a big project right now on kind of revamping our team goals and our, we call them our pillars for our game. And, the amount of data and study that goes into what is actually important on game day and what you should focus on. So that also leads into game day. So for me and myself, my role is I'm kind of in that analytics book in conversations with our coaches on, hey, this is an opportunity, we should be going for it, or, we should be going for 2 in this situation. Hey, this would be a time where a timeout would be good. This is when we should use them. And yeah, and then I work mainly with our offensive staff. And so helping collect stats or data or anything that's kind of like a game by game goal for our staff is what I'm doing on game day. And then the last area that I see, so we have recruiting, kind of the game day game feel, what I would call like football. But then there's the last one is kind of sports science. So strength and conditioning, player wellness, player tracking, that kind of stuff. And so, utilizing any data there to help, keep players safe and strong and ready to, perform their best on game day.
So you don't get an off season, do you?
I get an off season from something. So,
because I never would have guessed that piece about the off season and the data analysis about the players and the training part.
Yeah. So there's always a chance at the end of the year to kind of recover and, get ready for the grind of the next year. But, there's always some data somewhere in our program that can be analyzed and, looked at and trying to, get the most out of our program.
We're here with Coach Matthew Edwards from the University of Virginia, Director of Football Analytics. Coach, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this. Why do you think analytics in football hasn't necessarily reached the college game as quick as it has in the NFL? And as being the Director of Football Analytics, what are the big benefits you see that come from, focusing on analytics and making that kind of an important piece of your system?
I think that a lot of college teams are run by people who have grown up in college and have sort of always done things a certain way, and analytics, staffers and stuff has just not really been a part of that. And mainstream has really caught the attention of recruiting, right? You see all sorts of like creative teams that are making Twitter photos and videos and all sort of content to try and work in recruiting or to promote your program. And that's a pretty like visual thing where a coach can say, hey, we're not doing that, we need to do that. I think most people have kind of caught the vision for strength and conditioning. They realize that that's important, and so that aspect is kind of always been there. But I think the analytics it's coming. There are a couple of like third party programs that sell analytic things to teams. Pro Football Focus, I think, has most of FBS teams as clients, and there are a few others, but they haven't really seen how like a full dedicated team can benefit yet. And so I think that it's coming. I think you'll start to see people with my role, more commonly soon. But yeah, I think that, like I mentioned earlier, just the amount of money that is put into things like recruiting and strength and conditioning. You look at some of those SEC schools' recruiting budgets. It's in the millions of dollars per year, and they're trying to attack top talent, which is awesome. But then, how do you utilize that top talent, right? So having top talent is going to help you win games, and that's important, right? You want to obviously win games, and that's going to continue your ability to be employed, but then also that's what we're all trying to do. But then analytics, I think, can be that piece that can help push you over the edge of, we have this great talent, we have these good schemes. Now what are those maybe missing things, or just like kind of small incremental changes that can affect a game, that can kind of be that difference between a close win and a close loss.
That's incredible. Coach, I need to dive into your head for just a minute. I mean,
all right, let's hear it.
I had no idea where we were going with analytics, man. You've got me really intrigued, though. I want to get inside your head for a minute here.
I'm not sure you do, but we'll see.
I'm debating, actually, because you are a math major, so
Yes.
I am debating that just a little bit. So let's go to game day for a minute. You've already done all your work during the week. The work is in front of you. It's been, I'm guessing, Sunday, Monday, it's been presented to the coaches. They've looked
Sunday, Monday, Tuesday.
Okay. So like a 3-day install, basically.
Yeah, it just depends on information and when the coaches utilize it in game planning. But
okay. Now, game day. Let's pretend it's a Saturday noon kickoff. I love East Coast noon kickoffs. Sun's high. Down there in Virginia, you're probably kicking it at about 75, 80 degrees, humidity.
It does sound nice, yeah.
And are you on the headset with the offensive coordinator, with the head coach? What is the relationship on game day? Are you in their ear?
Yeah, so I'm on the headset talking to coaches, and really just giving them information. Each year is a little bit different, but I'm helping get them, actionable information. We have a plan and things that are set up of when I can and should help them get information. And so, it's sort of like you said, the work's already been done, and we've got a pretty good thing going on when I can get them information, and just kind of go through the plan as much as we can.
Now, I know our head coach is also calling our plays, and we've got a guy upstairs, and I'm on the field signaling plays, from what the head coach tells us. So when you're upstairs and you point them in an area or a direction, hey, coach, the chart says this, coach, the data says this. when they go with what you say. Now, I realize year one, when you were learning the position, building the position, might have been a different feeling versus now 4 years in. Man, when they take your info and go with it, does your heart just drop? Are you nervous watching that play? What's going through your mind?
Depends on how, close the game is or how close the decision is. There are times where I'm like, man, this is obvious. We need to go for it. So even if we miss it, I'm like, whatever. Like, we
Yeah.
need to go for it. It's so obvious. But yeah, there are times where, I think just like any role or job, an offensive coordinator calls a play and he's a little anxious on, are we going to have protection here, or defensive coordinator, this blitz, is it going to make it there? And so I think there's definitely an aspect of that. But like you said, as you get into it and get rolling, it gets a little more comfortable, and you kind of settle into your role and how it feels and what you're doing.
Is there a call that you can remember? And I don't care if it was year one versus year 3, year 4, whatever, that you remember saying, hey, coach, data shows this. They take that advisement, they implement it, they run the play, it works. Coach, great call, great job. And just, wow, that was a game changer. Is there anything that stands out?
I think because Coach Mendenhall's so into it, it's obviously it's his decision, right? He's the head coach. A time comes to mind this year where we were playing North Carolina. We were up 44-41. We had like 2 minutes left, and we'd been stopped on third down, and it was like 4th and 4 on our own, like 30-ish, 35. But we had not stopped Carolina really all day. They hadn't punted. We'd forced them to turn it over a few times. But Coach Mendenhall, in his mind, it was like, all right, we should go for it. And now, are we going to have our best chance offensively or by doing like a fake punt? So that was part of our discussion. We ended up doing a fake punt, and we got it and was able to, kneel it out and win the game. But those decisions, that's heavy, heavy duty for the head coach, and a lot to think about. So lucky to be with Coach Mendenhall, who values what I do and kind of my input, but then, oh yeah, that's his decision all the way.
That's awesome. It's so interesting to hear, and I'm telling you right now, I feel like I could go another half hour asking more of these questions. I'm someone who, at work, in my work environment, we've really started to use a lot of data. What we've really harped on with our community, both serving our community and with our staff, is being data guided. We've really harped on being data guided because at some point, like coach was doing with you guys, at some point you got to be the head coach and you got to say, I know what the chart says. We're not going for it though. We're going to punt the ball. So we've really focused on a data guided approach in our work environment. So this you can copy and paste a lot of data driven, data guided information all the way to the workforce too. So this has been great to hear. I appreciate all your insight there. I want to switch our focus for a quick minute and talk about adversity. Adversity is always a huge part of our show, and what we like to learn about stuff coaches have faced growing up, whether it was growing up and being a student athlete, or whether it's been as an adult, business world, what have you. So, with that, Coach, we'd like to talk about what is one of the biggest adversities that you faced in life, and how did you overcome it, and what did you learn from it?
So this is a little tricky. I feel like I'm sort of cheating because it's not necessarily an adversity that I went through. So just over 4 years ago, our oldest son was diagnosed with leukemia. And so he was just, 19 months old, and we had no clue what, our life was going to be like. And so had to make, quite a few decisions professionally, had to turn down some jobs, had to change jobs, had to, live away from where we were from as he was getting some treatment. And so, like I said, it's kind of cheating because, I wasn't going through all the things that my son went through, but it was a, pretty challenging time for our family. And so to, be able to find the things that were most important, um, was key. And to be able to have kind of I would say, a farther time frame outlook, was really beneficial, because we knew, as we started, it would be a long road, and the first little it's pretty hard on the little kids. And so, yeah, I think that I don't know if that answers your question, but that's, I'd say that's kind of been a life changer for us.
And coach, how are things now?
Good. So he finished up his treatment last April, and so it was, 3.5 years of treatment, and he's in, cancer free, and everything's been really good. And we have great doctors here at UVA, and so, that was another reason we felt really lucky to be here. We were able to get this job, about 4 or 5 months after our oldest son was diagnosed, and so, we were able to move closer to the hospital here. And so we've been really blessed and have had a lot of, kind of miracles happen in our life. And yeah, things have been going really well with him. So thanks for asking.
Coach, that's a huge adversity for the whole family. And, God bless that you guys were able to get it taken care of, get the right medical team involved, and have that core strength of family to keep you guys together. We'll definitely keep you guys in our prayers as we continue to go down this path. I'm really happy to hear that things went good.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, Coach. Thank you so much for sharing with us that. Just want to echo Coach Chaddock. Really happy things are going well for your son, and hopefully we keep it that way. We won't want to keep any more of your time, but the last thing we want to ask is, it's besides the question that Coach Chaddock asked, the last two questions are sort of our what we focus on the most on the show. And obviously, as we go through our careers and we grow up, we obviously don't do it by ourselves, and there's so many people that impact us and influence us in good ways. And I want to ask you, who are some mentors that you look up to? Obviously, you've spoken a lot about Coach Mendenhall, which I'm sure he's a big one, but who are some leaders and mentors you've looked up to, and what did they teach you, and what effect did they have on you?
Yeah, like you mentioned, Coach Mendenhall, he was my college head coach, and, now my boss. And so, I've been around him a lot. And so I'd say definitely him, on the kind of football side of things. And he is someone who cares a lot about football and winning and losing, and it means a lot to him. But he hasn't lost sight of, the importance of people and building, young men. And so his ability to kind of balance football and academics and learning and family and hobbies and interests has been a great example for me, as I've kind of grown up, watching him as a coach, and then watching him kind of, like I said, yeah, as a boss now. Um, like I mentioned, my grandpa coached for 40 years, and he's passed now. He passed, 5 or 6 years ago now. But to, kind of see the success that he had, and trying to, follow the things that I've heard about him and how he was around the game of football. So I'd say those two are kind of my main football mentors. And then, my new role in analytics, I have people that I look up to and follow. And, I think that one was actually a classmate of mine who then got a job working in data, and, works not in sports, but is really, technically pretty sound, and somebody that I will lean on for analytics advice. So I've got a few of those as well. But yeah, football wise, probably Coach Mendenhall and my grandpa are the main two.
Yeah, it's really cool to hear that analytics. It's new in football, but it's good to hear. You have to take advice from people and using analytics in other field too, and kind of pick their brains a little bit and see and relate it. And it can be difficult, but it's really awesome to see those blends, because just in this show we've had guests from all different kinds of fields, but our focus is on leadership and motivational character stuff, and you can find it in all different fields. So analytics too, you can pick and choose. All right, this guy in the tech field, I'm going to use this analytic and see how it could work here in football. So that's really cool to hear. That's definitely what we're about. Coach Edwards, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to join us on the podcast. It was really, really eye-opening and to learn about analytics and to hear you share a little bit about yourself and your background. On behalf of Coach Chaddock and I, we really want to thank you for taking time out and joining us.
Awesome. Thanks so much, guys. Really enjoyed it.
Absolutely. Take care, Coach.
See ya.